it kind of goes back to what I said earlier when I said when you ask a group of people what percentage of these people are good people, and most of them, and they say less than a third of them are good people, then it doesn't. It kind of throws away the logic of why you should even pursue a relationship with it. Because basically, what you're saying is leave those people alone. Where that's what they're doing. They're not dealing with them. They leaving them alone. If and I look at this as a failure as a group. If only a third of your group is good, you are a failure as a group. So you can't go and tell men, hey, you know what I mean? If you see this group, and we all said this, hey, I know out there the pool is shitty and pissy. Most of them women ain't worth a damn. But you got to know how to pick them. And they saying, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I do know how to pick them, man. That's why I'm single, because most of them are shitty. I mean, then how are we confused by them saying
that's them picking the shitty ones, though, bro? Like you just said it.
But that's what I'm saying, though. But if 70% of a group is shitty, that group is just a bad group.
I agree.
Like, would you walk into a restaurant if they had if you found out that they got roaches all over the place, rats crawling through the food is already nasty, and they got shitty service 70% of the time, would you continue to go to that restaurant? Or would you say
I'm gonna go to a different restaurant?
Let's say all the restaurants are like 70% of the restaurants are like that, and you don't have no option. And that person, and once that person picks that restaurant, that restaurant can no longer serve you.
If that's the case, then I would spend the additional money to go to a nicer restaurant that's going to be in that 30%.
What if that 30% is gone?
It's not. It can't be gone.
That's what I'm saying, though. Because, like, all right, so the restaurant example, it only how I operate the restaurant example. Once that restaurant gets chosen, it's off the table.
Right.
It's no longer available. Somebody picked that restaurant, and they the only ones eating at that restaurant. And the only thing you got is the restaurant with the rats and the bad food. Are you gonna go and keep?
So what I would say to that, and I think we had this discussion that was similar to it. I think that we
would start cooking your own meals.
Well, no, I ain't even gonna say that. I ain't gonna say that. But I think that we assume that every man is good. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those situations where we forget the fact that every man isn't going to get one of those women in the 30% because they don't deserve the woman in the 30%. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be people that, in just how in many cases we see in Black communities where there's food deserts, there's going to be people that's all that they eat, because either that's all that they want to eat, or they can't get out of the position to you know what I'm saying, be able to afford a better food or restaurant. So that's one of those deals of where that man or person has to be open enough to evolve and grow themselves.
No, and I agree with you. And your analogy about Black people being in food deserts, that's still only like, but that's the inverse. That would still mean that over 70% of restaurants are good places you can eat, and only 30% are bad. You're just stuck with the 30%. I ain't talking about being stuck with the 30%. I'm saying that if you're looking at something over 70% of it is bad, that is not that where we are as society. It's a failure for over 70% of the people in that society to be bad people. That's a failure as a group. We're not supposed to be in a space where over 70% of men are bad and over 70% of women are bad, because what that breeds is a bad society. It didn't used to be like that. Most people were good. Most people and yesteryear were good people, according to how we saw it in our eyes. This is just like how we saw people. We looked at that group and said, "Man, I can go out there and get pretty much out of 10 women, I can marry 7 out of the 10 women and be okay." And for women, they looked at men and said, out of 10 men, I can marry 6 to 7 out of those 10 men, and I know I'll be okay. But how we're viewing society now, we're looking at society and saying, out of 10 women, there's only 3 available. And women are looking at men and saying, out of 10 men, there are only 3 available. So what that does is that through our eyes, if most of society is bad to us, you're going to opt out. Just like the restaurant analogy, you're just going to go and cook your own damn food. And what that means in relationships is you would talk to your damn self, or you'll cultivate relationships, like you'll formulate more friendships, and then you'll just do whatever you do to satisfy your sexual needs at the crib by yourself, or you'll find other things to replace that sex need, i.e. going to play basketball, or finding your purpose in other things. And women the same way. They'll find, if they can't find a man, they'll replace that man with a job, or they're going. So that's what we're seeing. The prescription for that is that people are literally opting out of dealing with one another because they don't see the good in the people that in front of them. All they see is, I look out in the world and 70% of you motherfuckers ain't shit. And I'd rather, instead of trying to deal with that, I'm not going to sit here and fight tooth and nail just that the possibility that 30% can be, that I can get a hold of that 30% when I can be satisfied over here just doing my own thing.
No, that's fair. I can't argue that. And Kenny always gets on me about this, but I'm a optimistic. So I don't see the glass half full. I don't see the glass half empty. I see it half full. So it depends on the lens of the person that's viewing it. So I firmly believe that if you're one of those people that say that it's piss and shit in the dating pool, then you're one of those people.
More than likely one of those people.
You're one of those people that's pissing and shitting in a dating pool. You know what I'm saying? Because the logic of that is you basically saying that I make terrible decisions in the spouse, in the people that I choose to give my time to. You know what I'm saying? Because if there are 30% of good women, good men out there, then that should be the only focus that you have, and not even paying attention to the other 70.
All right. Go ahead. Last week, I
was gonna say to that point, and I'm an optimist too. I don't see most people as bad people. I'm just looking at how I'm looking through their lens. So when I'm just like you, I'm like, ain't no way possible you can tell me that majority of the men and women on this planet are bad people. We should be able to make this work. So I'm in the same boat as you. I'm just looking at it through their lens that if you're viewing, if they're viewing most of the world as bad, I see why they're opting out. And that's all I'm simply saying. And that's what Kane was doing, is that he's offering prescriptions for a group of people that don't see the value in the people in front of them. And the only way that they will ever change is if, like you said, change the culture, change the way you view things, change what you value in people. And when that requires an existential change in how we're operating as as humans in the Western world right now. Until that happens, these are the results we're going to get.
His prescription is going to make things worse, bro. That prescription is going to make things worse.
Possible.
Oh, it ain't no possible. That's an absolute. Because that's what we're seeing now. Again, people have normalized divorce parties. You know what I'm saying? If that's a thing in the world, then that's a big problem. So to tell somebody that you should just walk away from your marriage and feel okay with it, then that's terrible advice to give somebody.